The Justice Department has just announced that it plans to phase out its use of federal private prisons over the next 5 years. Now, part of the reason why they're doing this is because they realize that private prisons actually do not save the government money and actually lead to a lot more problems within our justice system. Officials plan to phase out their use of private prisons to house federal inmates, reasoning that the contract facilities offer few benefits for public safety or taxpayers. A pool of 14 privately contracted prisons reported more incidents of inmate contraband, higher rates of assaults, and more uses of force than facilities run by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. In fact, Sally Yates, who is the Deputy Attorney General, says they simply do not provide the same level of correctional services, programs, and resources. They do not save substantially on costs, and they do not maintain the same level of safety and security. Now, this is really great news, especially because once you have such a bold move on a federal level, it kind of sets an example for a state level. Now, this doesn't mean that private prisons are done. This just means that federal inmates will no longer be put into private prisons. However, on a state level, that's another story. And as you guys know from previous coverage we've done, private prisons hold a lot of political weight because of their political contributions. What they often do is not only do they fund the campaigns of politicians in order to convince them to sign these very, very lucrative contracts, but they also do it to pass tough on crime legislation, mandatory minimums, increasing sentencing, so more people are thrown in prison for a longer period of time.
So let's talk about all the reasons why this is a great move by the government. So as they point out, private prisons are actually less safe. Second of all, they cost more. We've actually on the show shown you many studies that at the state level show that they cost more, despite the fact that they cherry pick the people that they want to imprison. So they'll get a contract from the government and then say, now the most violent guys, you keep them because they're harder to handle. Okay, and that'll cost you more money. I'm going to keep the least violent. I'm going to keep, the least troubling inmates, the healthiest inmates. They cherry pick the inmates and they still cost more.
Yes. So let me give you more details into that. So one of the reasons why we still have this prohibition on marijuana on a federal level is because they lobby heavily to continue that prohibition, because more people getting caught for using marijuana means more people funneled into their prison system, right? They make money off of that. Another thing that they like to focus on is immigration. So think about this for a second. This whole argument against undocumented immigrants is, they're over here and they're using up our resources, they're taking our jobs. Well, private prisons, try to pass laws that are even harsher on undocumented immigrants, so we detain them in our prison system for years on end before we deport them, essentially spending more taxpayer money on undocumented individuals before sending them to the country that they came from. And so those are the two issues that they focus on the most. They don't really care about violent crime. They don't want to house violent criminals because they don't have unionized employees. They don't have great correctional officers a lot of times, right? And so they want to cut corners and make money. That's all it's about. It's a private industry.
So that leads to the two problems that are even larger. Which is, even if they cost less, which they don't, but even if they did, I would still vote no. And the reason I would do that is because look at the perverse incentives that you set up. Number one, you are now incentivizing a corporation which gives money to our politicians to house more inmates, to imprison more Americans. And if you have a profit motive behind anything, you will get more of that. And now if you have a profit motive out of imprisoning more people, right or wrong, you will imprison more people. That is against the whole point of the country, freedom, liberty. You can't take those things away from me without due process, etc. And here they've set up a way to go, okay, politicians, why don't you pass more laws against either against so-called illegal immigrants, some of which are actually undocumented, some of which are borderline, etc. Pass more laws against drugs, pass more laws against this, because I need more customers.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the last part of this that's a wrong incentive is they don't want to rehabilitate anybody. They don't want less recidivism. They want more recidivism. So once you're already inside a prison, they're hoping that you'll be a repeat customer. So they don't want to help you. They want to set up conditions so bad that you will return. So it's just a terrible idea in every way imaginable.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you're wondering how much money in federal taxpayer money has gone toward these prisons. The U.S. government spent $639 million on those facilities in the fiscal year of 2014 alone, in payments to just 3 of these private companies: Corrections Corporation of America, Geo Group, those are the 2 largest, and Management and Training Corporation.
It's so hard. We have a company called Corrections Corporation of America.
Yeah.
I mean, that ought to send a chill down your spine. So, look, federal government, Obama administration, great job here. Credit where credit is due. States are up next. We got to get rid of every private prison in the country. It's un-American to do this. Can you be part of independent media without being a member of the Young Turks?
Hell no, you can't!
Join right now. Be the independent media. Be the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.